There are voices that challenge the world and voices that change how we see it.
I am privileged, extremely privileged, to be hosting one of the most distinguished scholars, not only on the continent, but globally.
This is
Professor Jerry Sefa Dei,
a scholar, educator, and anti-racism pioneer whose work spans continents and generations.
Prof. Jerry Sefa Dei is a globally recognized Ghanaian-Canadian scholar, author, and researcher known for their expertise in areas such as race, anti-racism, black and minority education, and anti-colonial thought.
Born in Asokore Koforidua, Ghana, Nana Professor Dei became one of the world's foremost thinkers on race, social justice, and anti-colonial education. His research has shaped how educators, policymakers, and communities understand equity, inclusion, and indigenous knowledge in learning systems. From the halls of the University of Toronto's Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, where he directs the Center for Integrative Anti-Racism Studies, to global stages across Africa, Europe, and North America, his voice resonates with urgency, clarity, and purpose. In 2007, his influence was honored at home when he was installed as a traditional chief in Ghana, Nana Edusei Sefa Chinaboa Adumakwahine of Ansokore. Through decades of scholarship, advocacy, and mentorship, Nana Professor Dei has not only studied systems of inequality, he has helped dismantle them. This is the story of a thinker, a leader, and a bridge between worlds.
Welcome to Channel 63. One more time, I want to thank you for joining us. This is the channel that focuses on Africa and Africa issues, policies that shape the future of our continent. And as you know, we have what we call the Agenda 2063. And if Agenda 2063 is going to become what is supposed to be the Africa we all want, then it's going to be dependent not on any other person, but you and I who are Africans. And that is why this conversation is going to be had today. And today I am privileged, extremely privileged, to be hosting one of the most distinguished scholars, not only on the continent, but globally. And let me make a public disclosure that this scholar I'm going to be having this conversation with is my blood, my own senior brother, Professor Jerry Sefa Dei. We come from the same father. And so this is home talk. Prof. Jerry Sefa Dei is a globally recognized Ghanaian-Canadian scholar, author, and researcher known for their expertise in areas such as race, anti-racism, black and minority education, and anti-colonial thought. He's a professor of social justice education and director of the Center for Integrative Anti-Racism Studies at the Ontario Institute of Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. His work spans anti-racism education, international development, indigenous knowledge, and anti-colonial thought. He supports African-focused schools in Canada and emphasizes the role of culture and community service for the African diaspora. Professor Dei is a prolific author, having published over 40 books and more than 70 journal articles. He was installed as a traditional chief in Ghana in 2017 with a stool name Nana Edusei Sefa Dei. Prof. Dei is recognized for his significant influence on Canadian education and for mentoring many students who have become leaders in their field. And let me put on record, this year's Thought Leadership series, Prof was the keynote speaker, and all the other speakers who came are his students, some of whom he supervised for their PhDs, some of whom he has mentored over the years. My brother, Nana, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you in our
Yeah,
studios.
yeah.
You know, when I spoke to Olivia that, you know, you'll be coming to the
Right.
studio today, he said, today, Kobna will be turning in his grave.
No, I know. That would be so proud. And look, I need to be very honest. I think this is so impressive coming to see this studio, right?
Thank
and the
you.
work that you guys have done and with you and your staff.
Yes.
I also see and read some of your writings and some of the works, academic works, and you're already making an impact, which is
Thank
very,
you.
very important because we need that
Thank
on
you.
the continent. We need that on the continent. Nobody is going to think out the solutions for us. We have to do it ourselves.
Sure.
And this is why it's so important for us
Sure.
to do it.
Sure.
So when we have these spaces, right, we need to thank our ancestors, we need to thank our families, our communities who support us and sustain us and make this work what it is, right?
Nana, I'm not going to call Prof.
No,
Nana.
no, I prefer even
Yeah,
Nana to
Nana.
the Prof. Yeah.
Let's go back a bit into history.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see the
Yeah.
old man,
Yeah.
but you saw him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about him.
Yeah. You know, this is very emotional for us, and I think you know, we talk about parents who care, right? We know our dad and our mom, right? They really cared. They really cared for us, for the family, right? And I think the humility that they had, right, has in many ways redundant on a number of us in terms of how we see life, right? That life is a stage, it's a passing stage, but it's the footprints that you leave that is most important. It's not so much how long you live, but what have been your achievements, what have been your contributions, and how have you created communities, right? So with dad and our mothers, right, supporting families, supporting the family,
Yeah.
right, supporting the family, that's something that you cannot take away. And when we talk about leadership, that is leadership, right? Leadership is being there for the family, being there for the community, being responsible. Even when we don't have much, but we have to make sure that people have something to survive, to live on, right? And to become proud that when they walk on the street, they know at least they come from a home, they come from a family, they come from a community, and that their parents are respected in the community.
What, was the old man educated?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Not educated in the sense of where we say with the degrees and that, but educated in terms of home knowledge, home and culture knowledge, right? I think to me, when you listen to how he talks, right, you listen to how he advises, you listen to how he created this sense of building communities, right? He had a lot of wisdom, knowledge, right? And it's unfortunate that he didn't live long, right? I mean, he was about 68 years when he passed away, right? But I think the most important thing, though, is that he is proud, and I know in his grave he's standing around because all his children, right? All his children are now making up their mark in their respective ways, in their various communities, and I'm very, very, very proud of that, right? It's nice to see your brother, your sister, and say, tell somebody, oh, that's my brother. And people say, oh, really? Yeah. Like, for example, when I said, no, do you know Dave? He said, do you know it's my brother? He said, really? I said, yeah. Right. So it's a mark. Yeah.
You know, I'm asking us to go back in that way because I didn't see for audience, I didn't see my father. This is my senior brother, my real senior brother from the same father. One of the things that I keep hearing, Olivia, I know, that the old man was very organized.
Yeah.
His socks, he had a place for his socks, his tie, and everything.
Yeah.
Was that true?
No, it's true. It's true. He makes sure that, his trousers are just well lined up, right? When he comes from work, he takes them and hangs them very, very well. Right. And he taught us all that, right? He taught us all that. And I think even mom, right? Mom had this sense where, in Asokore, for example, people would say, mom doesn't like any dirt around, right? If you come and you see you throwing stuff around, he gets upset. It's all that they picked all that from the family that they were part of, right? That people should be very, very organized, should be determined, but also focused, right? That's the question, being focused in terms of what you want to do. You don't want to be disorganized, both in your thoughts and in your practice, right? And I think our parents were very organized and thoughtful in that.
So the purpose of our conversation, Dana, is you've as a Ghanaian, you schooled here, you went to Legon, then you went to McMaster, and then did your PhD, and now you are an accomplished scholar with made so many awards, honorary doctorates. I don't want to go into all of that. Anybody who wants to know about my brother, please go online and Google Professor George Jerry Sefa Dei, Dr. George Sefa Dei, I mean, you need to have time to read anyway. So tell me, Nana, how did you enter into that space? Anti-racism, racial issues. Was it out of passion, or in your readings you just realized there was a space? How did you get into? I know you are passionate about this.
No. I'm very, very passionate about it. I mean, I consider myself as social justice worker, right? I think, to me, I love what I'm doing.
Sure.
Right. Everybody has to love what they're doing.
Exactly.
Because if you don't love what you're doing, it's going to not create any impact. Not going to make any impact in terms of that. So when you tell me about how did I get into that journey, the travel of getting into that journey, you may not know this, but I was told that used always to say that you will know that I'll be a professor one day. Yeah, that's what I was told. That because maybe I like talking, I don't know. But I love teaching, right?
Okay.
So my original focus was on the questions of development, right? The whole question of development. So I was raising questions about why is that development is what you expect others to be, right? Or what people are underdeveloped because they lack what you have, right? But development is more than the material acquisitions. It's more than the technology. It's also the spiritual. It's also the social, the interrelations, the connections that we have as a people, right? It's more powerful in terms of what we talk about. The mindset, right? And that. So my initial work was around that, on questions about African development and what local people and communities were doing for themselves in terms of their own creativity and resourcefulness, right? But also going to school in North America, right, in Canada, I realized that there's a connection between how we talk about the African experience, the African destiny, and how our brothers and sisters who were already in that place were looked at. There was a connection between the continent and the diaspora.
Oh, really?
In other words, Africa is not just here. Africa is also there.
In
right?
Canada?
Yes.
In North America and all of that?
Spiritually, fiscally, socially, right?
Please expatiate on that.
Exactly. What I mean by that is that Africa is not just a land mass. It's not just a fiscal space. Africa exists in thought, in mindset, right? We also have people who are located now in these places, who have their roots, their ancestry here. And this is why we cannot talk about Africa as if it's just that
geographical continent.
Yes. We have to theorize Africa beyond its physical boundaries, right? Because there's Africa wherever we are.
Is it in terms of this blackness, black skin?
There's that, but also in terms of the ideas, the knowledge, right? That because knowledge resides in bodies and in cultural memories.
Absolutely.
Just because you were born here doesn't mean when you travel and live somewhere you forget about the teachings of your elders and the teachings of your ancestors, your history and your heritage, right? If you decide to forget, it's a conscious decision that you have made. But for some of us, Africa resides in us wherever we are, right? This is why we need to theorize Africa beyond its physical space, right? Because Africa today is in Canada, Africa is in Latin America, Africa is in the Caribbean. Just as when we talk about the continent itself, there's a Caribbean here, right? There's Latin American here, South American here, right? There's Europe here. And I think we need to theorize that connections, which is beyond the physical, to talk about the social, the spiritual, and the
this is amazing. I mean, I'm a Ghanaian, I live in Ghana, but of the last 8 years, I've been living in Uganda. And it will surprise you to know that some of even the food they eat is very similar to what we eat here. They call it, for example, posho, which is maize, just like banku and akplan in Ghana here. You know, so it's very interesting what the angle you come from. But let me ask. So in your leadership, in your growing up, in your process that you've taken, how did you pick your leadership?
Yeah, I think to me, leadership is you arrive at it collectively, right? In terms of, it's like your upbringing, how you grow with it, right? And this is why, to me, in terms of whatever you are, whatever you're doing, you aspire to be leading in that, right? And leading in that means you must also learn to follow, right? Because you learn to be a leader as you also learn to follow. And then I think there's a connection between that. So when you talk about how do I develop the leadership qualities, right? It's through the connections that I've made with people, right? The fact that, for example, people, you see how people being in our communities, you go to the traditional palaces, right? You see how the elders, the
way they say
leaders,
it,
right?
the way they conduct
They
themselves.
conduct themselves, right? They are all, you learn from that. Even in our own homes, the way our mothers, our fathers comported themselves, we learn from that. And that to me is leadership, right? Our parents were not people who were just, excuse me to say, just wayward, right, on the street, right? They brought up a family, they educated that family with even the little that they had. That is leadership. That is leadership, right? So we have to talk about leadership as responsibility.
Responsibility.
As responsibility. We have to talk about leadership as collective, communal. It's not just simply a single person, right? It's a collective, and how you arrive at that. And I think that to me has guided me in that process.
Interesting.
Right? The whole question about, you cannot talk about leadership without talking about also questions of humility, right? Humility is so important, right? Right? It reminds me, my alma mater is Ghana National College in Cape Coast, right? I remember when I was as a student, right? We used to have elections to decide who becomes the house prefect, right? And the students wanted me as house prefect, but the headmaster at the time, right? God bless his memory, Mr. Kane, right? Who said, I'm not sure, you see, George is so free with the students. So the students should be very, very disrespectful because he can't control them. He's going to be. And I told the headmaster, I said, no, because I'm very free with them and I can tell them to do things and they'll listen, right? It's the connections that you develop with people, right? Leadership should not be imposed. It should not be something which is dominating, right? It has to be relational. It has to be responsibility. Right? It has to be ethical. It has also to engage questions of social justice, right? To be minded, right? And that's why I talk about creating ethical learning subjects.
Absolutely.
Right? Creating ethical learning subjects.
That takes me to one of the major subjects, because you're an educationist. You've taught education, you've talked about education and development and all that. What do you think is missing in our part of the world?
Yeah, first of all, we need to be thankful for...
But before that, can you define what education is all about?
Yeah, to me...
and then what is missing?
Yes. A colleague of mine who passed away a long time ago, Roger Simon, that talked about education is not school, not schooling, right? What we have is too much, and Shuja, also a scholar in the US, he talked about, there's too much schooling, but too little education. Education is broader than schooling.
Please
so
explain.
To me, education is about the ways, the strategies, and the options through which we come to know ourselves, live our world, to actualize our dreams, our aspirations, right? That because it's a learning process, right? It doesn't take place in the four-wall classroom.
Which is schooling.
Yes. It can be in the home, it can be on the street, right? It can be talking to the elders, it can be in the community, engaging the community folks, families, right? That to me is about learning process, a learning process through which we come to live our lives, actualize our dreams and our aspirations, and become who we are. And that to me is how we define education very, very broadly, to be inclusive. Of course, the schooling is important,
absolutely,
right?
It's part of
but
education.
It's more than that, right? It's more than that, right? So what we do for ourselves, right, is very important.
So would you then say that Africa is where we are now, or Ghana is where we are now, primarily because we've majored in schooling more than education?
I think the problem is that we haven't, and that's what I was going to say, right?
Sure.
First of all, we need to be thankful for the educators who have gone before us and those who are doing the hard work in the schools, right? In African schools. And I think yesterday I was speaking at one of the towns in my area, right? And teachers were being rewarded, right? And these were excellent teachers. So we do have the excellent teachers and that. But when we look at the system, right, we have borrowed too much from the outside. When there's so much we can learn from our own local context. So in one of my books, for example, I write about growing up, right? You know about Niagara Falls, some of these rivers.
Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, the rivers in your own village.
You don't know them.
We don't know them, right? So we need to have our school system start by where we are at. Contextualize the education so that the learners can identify with what is being taught.
Why must we do that?
Yes, so that they are able to be own and affirm themselves as who they are, right? They have legs to stand on. They are not standing on anybody's legs or shoulders. They are standing on their own. They are standing on their own feet. They are firm. They are grounded, right? To have an anchorage, to have an anchor means that within your culture, right? Within your traditions, We are so firmly rooted in that. And that's why education has to start from that, right? Education, but then because we are international, right? Because we are going global, it's also very important to connect that because we are not an island unto ourselves, right? But if we are not rooted
in our own traditions and culture,
we are rootless.
Absolutely.
You know what happens when somebody is rootless? They just fall, right? This is why we need an education system that is built on our traditions, our cultures, our heritage, our knowledge systems. It doesn't mean that everything about those things are good. I'm not saying that, but we need to be grounded in them. And we do have the critical interrogation of our traditions, our cultures, right? Our histories. Because our histories is not just a linear trajectory. History is not like we move from the past to the present to the future. That's not history. History is spiral, a circle. The back, the present, the past, the present, the future are in a circle. They circulate.
Cyclical.
Yeah. They're spiral, right? And I think this is so important. This is why we talk about Sankofa. The reason we talk about Sankofa is that let's go back and fetch what we have forgotten because it was useful, right? We so much become, look, there's a scholar, Franz Fanon, he talks about, we don't want to be imprisoned by the past.
Right.
Nobody wants to be imprisoned by the past, but we cannot do away with the past. The past has lessons to teach us that we must reclaim the past, reflect on the present, and project onto the future.
Could it be part of the reason why the Asian tigers are developing more than us?
Yes.
You have a system in Africa, in Ghana, where young people can't even speak their own local dialect.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Does that matter?
It matters a lot.
How?
Because language is about identity. If you can't speak your own language, right, who are you? If you cannot affirm who you are.
But somebody will tell you, what am I going to, if you get out of Ghana, even if you get out of Ghana, who cares about tree? Who cares about Ghana?
That has been a problem. That has been a problem. This is the African problem.
At the global level, nobody speaks tree.
No, but this is the issue, right? Part of the problem of colonization,
right,
and others have said this, right? Part of the problem of colonization is that the colonizers did a dirty job, right?
Explain.
On our language and on our identities.
Okay.
This is why we have all these contestations about what does it mean to be African, right? So we have these contestations about it. But also the question of language. This is why somebody goes somewhere and says, well, I've forgotten my own language.
Yeah.
You have picked on somebody's language. Research upon research shows that if you're able to speak more than 2 or 3 languages, it actually furthers your own education.
Absolutely.
So we cannot say, look, we need to talk about our local languages. And if we are not talking about our local languages, it's part of the problem of the educational system, right? Why should we, right, always be having, I would prefer you and I would have this conversation in our local language.
Yeah, because it's
global.
continental. Sure.
Right?
Global, yeah.
Right? So, and I think at the times when you see, this is why when you look at sometimes some of the Asian, I mean, I've been in Canada for quite a bit of time, right? I'll see the Asian leaders would come, or some of the foreign leaders would come and meet, say, the Prime Minister of, say, Canada, right? And they will do a press conference, right? You will see that they can speak English, but they will speak
in their local dialect.
Yeah, and they have it translated, right? We don't have that too much of some of our leaders, right? They come and they will want to speak English, right? Well, I want to see our leaders will come speak this and get it translated. Even if you can speak English, speak our local languages and get it translated by the press people who are there, right? And that. You see, language is so powerful.
But Nana, if you take, I mean, just on that same trajectory, if you go to India, even though they have different dialects, but they've majored in 1 or 2, which is the national dialect.
Yes.
Is it part of the reason why we are not advancing?
Well, you know,
our failure to, agree on one national dialect.
Yeah, it's this, in history, right? This has been part of the struggles of education in the continent.
Okay.
The argument or the debate was that we have so many languages, right? So we cannot just have one language. Right? The point is this, right? So far as an African language,
any of them goes.
Yes, we can teach that to all our students.
I mean, like Swahili, for example.
Swahili, yes.
Spoken in about different East African countries.
Exactly. And it will be nice.
The French.
Yes, it will be nice, for example, when we have that language. So that idea that, we have so many languages, we don't know which one to focus, right? And it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out, right? We should be grounded in something we call at least an African language. Right? Why do you think when others come to our continent, they want to learn how to speak our language? Right? There's something about language because it gives identity. It's also about resistance. It's also about how you claim, right, a sense of place and a sense of connection to where you are. And I think it's very, very important for us to see how our educational system incorporates these things that we're talking about. Our indigenous languages, our indigenous knowledges, our indigenous sciences. When I talk about indigenous sciences, I'm talking about our local pharmacology, right? Our herbs, right? It's not just about Western medicine. It's about our traditional herbalists, the knowledge base that they have. Also for our education system to look at our folkloric productions, drama, theater, music, right? You know, there's something, I remember when I was a student at Lagos, we used to laugh when they call something called dondology, right? But dondology is about our culture.
Right.
It's about our traditions. It's about our history. It's music. It's drumming, dancing. As a traditional chief, right? When I'm dancing, the hand gestures that I make,
they language.
Signify. That's language. They signify something, right? And we should be proud of that, right?
But why do you think we are downplaying all these things?
No, I think it's a part of the colonial education system. And
but we gained independence 60
Oh, no,
years ago.
remember the colonial expedition or the colonial process is ongoing, right?
Still?
Yeah, it's ongoing. You just don't need the physical presence of a body.
The mind.
Mind. It's a mind.
Is that why the Chinese are giving scholarships to all our brightest students to go to China?
The mind is a powerful thing, right? The mind is a powerful thing, so you control the mind, right? That's why Sibiko said the most potent weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. You capture the mind of the oppressed and everything falls. Even Kwame Nkrumah said the same thing too, right? In terms of, the mind is so powerful. And to decolonize the mind, right? To break away from the shackles, the chains, you become free. You begin to think.
Bob Marley.
Yes, you begin to think.
Mental slavery.
Right? You begin to think for yourself. Right?
Now, let's go back to the language again. Is there any research that shows that if children are taught in their local dialect at the beginning, kindergarten, whatever, it enhances their...
There's a lot of research on that. And not just even... It's the question about when they are taught in multiple languages, when they are able to cultivate an understanding in those. You see, sometimes we don't know the extent of what is going on, right? We talk about development, right? You and I have to think through a process where we use some of this language to communicate. So an idea that we have, right, we have to think through that process and be able to communicate it in somebody's language. That whole process, something is missing.
That's right.
Right? When our elders teach us
Proverbs.
Yes. When our elders teach us the Proverbs, right? When our elders teach us the Proverbs, you cannot translate everything that the elder is saying into the English language or to the French language. Something is lost in translation. Something is lost, right? Something is lost. And there are certain words that the English language cannot capture it.
That's true.
In our local vernacular, right? So it's corrupted. It is corrupted. And this is why language is a big thing. Language and the question of identity, they're big things, right? And that. So we need to pay attention to that because it's about affirming who we are as a people, who we are as Ghanaians, who we are as Africans, right? It's very, very important. And we need to look at it in such a way that we are not saying that, we shouldn't talk about French, English, or whatever. We have to talk, but we cannot dismiss or devalue or negate our local languages. It's very important for us to talk about that. It's very important.
So let's talk about the pedagogy of education, especially in Ghana. What is missing?
Well, I think the question of the rootedness that I talked about, rooting the learner in their own history, their own culture, their own identity, their own languages is one, right? Also making the curriculum very, very sophisticated. When I talk about making the curriculum very sophisticated, what I mean is that the curriculum should be very diverse.
Okay.
It should embrace the different teachings that are there, right? This is why the power of African indigeneity, right, comes into the discussion, right? How do we claim our indigeneity, our indigenousness? You cannot just tell me simply because of colonization we have lost our indigenousness. No. If we are not talking about it, it's a conscious decision that we have made, right? Because when you go into our communities, right, the traditions, the cultures, the histories, right, they are all talking about indigenous understandings, right? The way we see the forest, the relationship to the forest, the knowledge system that is connected with the forest, right? The land, the teachings of the land, right? The teachings of the land are about relationalities. They're about connections. They're about mutual interdependence. They're about building communities, right? So those teachings are very, very important. And I think it's very important to bring them into the school system, right? So when you ask what is missing, right? I mean, the question of, I love to talk about African indigeneity, right? Some of the critics of African indigeneity happen to be our own selves, our own scholars, right? Where they will tell you what is indigeneity. Somehow we are in the modern context, right? So they see this, Helen Lower talks about this attractive allegory between tradition and modernity. So it's bifurcated, tradition and modernity, separate things. No, they're continuum. No tradition is static.
That's true.
No tradition is boxed in a place. So when we talk about indigenous knowledge, they are
and
not.
who invented the modernity that we are talking about here?
No tradition
The
is
fact that
boxed
it's
in a place.
modernity means that it started from somewhere.
Right? And then nothing is fixed.
That's right.
Nothing is frozen. Right? They travel. These things travel. Right? They are dynamic. Right? So when we look at our knowledge systems, they move with the times. They move with the times. So this idea that somehow these are things which are past, right? We need to rethink that. This is why the Sankofa, the Akanwe Sankofa is so powerful, because it acknowledges the power of the past, the teachings of the past, not a fossilized past, not a static past, but a past that is continually relevant.
And
that
reinvented itself.
Yes, that we talk about the present. The present is about the future. The reason why the present is about the future is that we are also contesting the future even now in the present.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So earlier on when I talked about the power of reclaiming the past, reflecting on the present, and projecting onto the future, is that spiral.
That's right.
It allows us to contest the future
From
even
the present.
now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it also allows us to look at the past and learn from our mistakes, learn from it, and grow.
And grow. And use the present to reconstruct the future. But Nana, you are the scholars. I mean, you and everybody knows that you've done such an extensive work. You've just mentioned about when you were in Legon and the endology and all of that. African studies has been there for all these years. Why haven't our scholars been able to make sure that this African indigeneity become part and parcel of educational process?
It's a gradual process.
Okay.
Because you need to cultivate a mindset.
Okay.
Right.
60 years after independence.
Yeah, no, look, colonization took a long time. So
that's true.
So yeah, so to undo it, right, it's going to take time. This is why, to me, the younger generation, we talk about the power of the youth, right? The youth is the future. The reason is that there's power, right? If the power is harnessed in the right way, right? So the youth asking the questions, right? The youth asking some of the critical questions. After all, what is decolonization? When people talk about to be decolonized, it's about asking new questions, right? Asking new questions. It doesn't mean nobody has asked the questions before. It's the way we frame the questions, right? To have an African-centered perspective. When the Fiasanti talks about where you stand, right, has a lot to do with how far
you can go.
You can see, right? So it's to be grounded. So we need an African-centered education where the learner starts from where they are. The learner starts from their African knowledge base and relate and project and be able to connect it with other knowledge systems. Because no knowledge is static and no knowledge is isolated by itself. Knowledges are what? Always commingling.
Sure.
They're interfacing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's very important to do that. But the problem is that we don't want we don't want to engage our knowledge systems, our own cultural knowledge system. Sometimes either we've been taught it's not a good thing or it's not worth talking about, right? So we buy into that, right? And that is part of the colonial process. And by the way, when I speak about colonial, right, I'm not simply talking about something which is foreign or alien. I'm talking about anything that is imposed and dominating. So you can have colonizing relations even within families, among ourselves, on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of gender, on the basis of class, right? So we can colonize other people on the basis of
Any
that.
examples?
Yeah, well, when we talk about, well, when you think, okay, because you belong to this religion, your religion is the best, or you belong to this cultural group, your cultural group is the best, or you belong to this
ethnic group.
Yes, right? So this is, it can be colonizing. We have to see how our differences are connected. Africa is not homogeneous, right? Africa is heterogeneous, diverse. And there's a connection that we must strive for, right? There's unity out of those diversities, right?
Is that why we are having challenges with developing leaders?
Well, I think it's,
Does culture has anything to do with leadership development?
Yes,
Explain to us.
Well, what I mean by that is, I think if when you have a leader that is not rooted in their culture, right? We're not working with the teachings of their culture, right? Let me give you one example, right? A powerful teaching in our cultures throughout Africa is about rights and responsibilities. That for every right that one is given, there's the expectation of responsibility. Right? So if you have leaders who think getting to power is simply a right, and don't take the other part of it, which is about responsibility, you run into a problem, right? Questions of responsibility is not just simply to your families, it's to the communities, right? If you go and seek the vote of some people in your community, you have a responsibility to deliver to their aspirations, their dreams. Otherwise, it's a betrayal. Otherwise, it's a betrayal.
So, in other words, the leader, for example, who goes to the community, seeks their vote and get power, and therefore, and yet does not behave in a manner that goes back to benefit the people, is not rooted in a particular culture.
And it's not working with our cultural knowledge system. Because we are cultural knowledge system.
And all of that.
Yes. When the Ubuntu philosophy says, I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am, right? Or when even in our Akan language, we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes when people talk about it, I ask, do people really understand what it means, right? Of course it takes a village to raise a child, but you must first have the village. So you must build it. You must create it, right? What does it mean to build a village? It's to think about each other, the relationship that we have, the generosities, the humilities, right? The give and take. That I am who I am because my teachers helped me. It's not because everything existed in my head. That's who I am.
But we have politicians also, Nana, who, based on this same concept you are saying, okay, he's a minister. He makes sure only his people get appointment and jobs. Is that what you are describing as village? Is that okay?
No.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's
because to him, that's his village.
No.
So he makes sure only his village members are...
No.
Okay, so
that's
what
I
are
mean
you talking about here?
To me, this is what I said. What that's saying.
Explain it to us, because otherwise somebody will say, this is what the professor is saying.
No.
Like if the professor says that once I'm a minister, I can build my village and make sure... Okay, so what do you mean?
You don't leave anybody behind.
Okay.
That's community.
Fantastic.
Right? You don't leave anybody behind. Right? It doesn't mean that the community is about sameness. The community can be heterogeneous.
Right.
It can be about differences, but you don't leave anybody behind. You are connected. You know, one of the things I teach in my classes, right, is that when people come into the classroom, let's see the classroom space as a community. When you see the classroom space as a community, they know that every learner in that space has something to offer.
For the betterment of the community.
Exactly. So when you open your mind to hear what they're saying, you will learn something from it. So when you come to that classroom with an open mind, you will leave that classroom knowing more because you had that open mind and you were able to soak ideas. If you come there with an arrogance that, well, this is about me, I know it all, this is my community. I'm just only going to talk about my community. That's arrogance. You're not being humble, right? You are not recognizing that there are other people within that community.
You
right?
lack intellectual humility.
Yes, exactly. And you have to build it. You have to build it, right? So when I talk about that village, it's building the village where it is about interrelationship. It's about reciprocities. It's about sharing. It's about connections. It's about mutual interdependence. It's about depending, seeing that we are dependent on each other. Right, to create that village.
I'm getting scared because what it means is that culture has a lot to do with development.
Yes.
Even in a democracy.
Yes.
Because this idea of, winner takes all, once I'm not in the same party with you, then you're my opponent, you're my enemy and all of that. It's not because you don't know what culture is all about.
Yeah, because you see, look, when we talk about the cultural system, let's look at our cultural system, right? Why do you think we have all this, we have our traditional institutions where elders will give some advice? Even we want to hear from the youth about what they have to say about something. You come to the traditional courts, and then Nana will say, well, let's hear from the youth. The youth we want to hear from them. We will advise them, but we also want to hear what they have to say, right? It's about that sense that we are connected, right? It's about that sense that we are connected. And when you don't have that cultural system, the knowledge base of that, you end up simply with the idea that, oh, this is my party, and everything about my party
is the best.
The best. You don't take criticisms, right? You will never move forward. Nobody is immune to criticisms. As you and I are speaking, there's somebody listening to us who will be able to have a critical interrogation of what you're saying. That's fine. That's part of the learning process. That makes what makes us human, right? We don't know it all, right? So it's very, very important for us to build on that knowledge base by understanding where people are coming from, where people are grounded. If people are offering critiques, let's try to see where they are coming from, and let's learn from that. What we need to avoid, though, is simply this idea that, well, what I say
is the final.
Is
the best.
The best. Nobody else knows it. That's arrogance. That's arrogance. And that arrogance can be so defeatist. It can be so dangerous. It can be so harmful. It doesn't create communities. It doesn't build communities. I think we need to be very, very humble. We need to know that rights are about responsibilities. We need to know about the teachings of our culture, which says the individual is important, but he or she is most important given the community that they are linked with. In other words, while the individual is important, that the importance defines in relation to the community that they are part of, right? So it cannot just be about me, my rights, my rights, my rights. It has to be us. Our responsibilities.
This is scary, Nana, because you have young people today who are disconnected from the African thing that we are talking about here. Are you worried about that?
No, I think I wouldn't even say I'm worried. I think let's give some agency to the youth, because Africa has a tremendous amount of wealth that we don't even tap to, and that's our youth. Africa has a world's youngest population.
Yeah, sure.
We need to tap into that. We need to give the youth a sense of hope, a sense of a future. We need to see in the youth creativity and resourcefulness and tap that. For those youth who are going to the directions that we have concerns with, we need to see what can we put in place that will bring them back, right? Because sometimes the misdirection is due to miseducation. Sometimes it's due to the lack of future. They don't see any future, right? When you own something, would you do damage to it?
No.
If you have a sense of connection, a sense of belonging to this space, if your staff feel that this space, they are all part of it, why would they not protect it? Because they know they are all part of it. But if they think, oh, well, this space, no, it's not for me, or it's for somebody else, they don't have that mindset. That is for us. They have it mindset that is for somebody else, right? They can get into that space and say, well, if that something is spoiling, let it spoil because it doesn't touch me. So we need to develop this culture.
I'll come back to how we can address that. But let me take you back to the lecture you gave at the British Council in August. You talked about Africans smiling with other people's teeth.
Yeah, and that's...
What exactly did you mean?
That's correct. Other elders have said it, right? I mean, to smile with your own teeth, it's... In other words, be proud of what you have. Be proud of what you have and use that as a starting base to engage conversations. Don't look at the world through somebody's lens, through somebody's eyes. Use your own eyes to look at the world, because there you are able to know what the issues are and find a way to address it. Remember earlier when I talked about nobody is going to find solutions to our problems and challenges. It's going to be us. Our youth, you and I, our educators, our scholars, our politicians. We have to find solutions to our own problems. And this is why we need an education system that allows us to be proud of our culture, our identities, who we are. If we can't talk about being proud of our identities as Africans, then who are we? Who are we? You cannot just simply say, you are not somebody else. You have to say, I am African, and I'm proud of it. So bringing that pride, right? So this idea that when we talk about the power of smiling with our own teeth is being proud of who we are ourselves, right? And being able to demonstrate that, right? Because we don't want to read the world through somebody's eyes. We want to be African-centered, right? We want to be grounded in our culture, our history. We want to show that we have a history and we are proud of it. You know, I brought some of, last year I brought some of my students, right? We came from Canada here, You know, some amazing things happened when we got back to Canada, right? I remember one of in our class discussions, right? One of the students said powerfully, he said, Nana, seeing what I saw when I went to Ghana, nobody's going to take my African identity away from me. No way.
And these students are from where?
These are students from Canada.
Caribbean?
Yeah, Caribbean. Who came here? Yeah, who came here? Because they saw, look, to meet some of the people that they met, to see the communities, how the communities lived, that the people, they may not have much, but they are very, very proud, right? You may call them, quote, underdeveloped. That's your problem. They are very, very proud, right? They didn't see that they were underdeveloped until you told them they didn't have a first-time hospital, they didn't have a nice feeder road, they didn't have a skyscraper. That's why they're no. I think we have to look at development in terms of what people do for themselves, what makes them proud. It doesn't mean they don't face challenges, right? It doesn't mean they don't face challenges, right? But they are not going to be bogged down with a sense of thinking about what others are perceiving them to be.
How did we get here, Nana?
I don't know. I think
you're a scholar. You've done a lot of. You've written so much.
Yeah.
How did Africa get here?
I think colonization. Earlier we talked about colonization and as something which we talked about it a couple of years back, right? Yeah. But to me, I see colonization as an ongoing process, right? So when you talk about what we go here, we are living the legacies of colonization. It doesn't mean that we cannot think outside colonization. Colonialism is not our only story. Other people have said it. Colonialism is not our only story. Africa did not begin with 1492 when Europeans came here. Or the black experience did not begin with 1492. There was an experience way, way before that, right? And I think to me, it's the power of our education system that is able to teach that. Unless we have that. So when you ask the question, how did we get here? If you have an education system that continues to reproduce the colonial legacies, that continues to produce the colonial violences and the encounters,
but
they're not going to get out of it.
A lot of countries, the educational budget is financed from outside. And when these monies come, it comes with conditionality.
Yes.
So how do we get around it?
Well, this is why we have to think through solutions for our own problems, right? What's the point in getting all this assistance if it's tied to conditions? So somebody gives you money and they say, well, you have to use the money to buy my goods, right? You don't have any independence on that, right? This is a problem when we talk about African independence. And you and I have heard, we talked about this and we've heard of this, right? It's the same bus, just a different driver. The same bus, it's a different driver, right? I think we need to see how, this is why, this Africa, right, is, to me, is so powerful, right? Because the core question of future leaders.
Yes, sure.
Future leaders.
Sure.
The mindset.
Yeah.
Future, right? The tourists, right? Those who are able to speak truth to power, right? Who are able to call on their people. They have the respect, the acknowledgement, and the validation of their people because of their deeds, what they are doing. Their communities see them as worthy, as trustful, as something that they can rely on, right? So we need that leadership that people can buy into, that people can be very trustful, that people can say, look, they are speaking for us, they care for us, they do have our destiny at their hands. Those are the things that we need.
Would you subscribe to the school of thought that says that not all politicians are leaders?
Yeah, oh yes, oh yes.
Why?
Yeah, a lot of politicians are just, and I'm not saying all, I mean, that people,
of course.
A lot of politicians out there are just going to it because they want to amass wealth for themselves and their families. So how can somebody who does that be a leader? A leader must be about community. Must be about community, right? It must be about a community. I think a leader to me must be somebody who is very, has a foresight, futuristic, is visionary, right? A leader is somebody who's able to work with their people to think out solutions to their problems. A leader is a listener. A leader is somebody who is spiritually grounded, fearing, whether God-fearing, Allah-fearing, right? A leader is somebody who also is aspirational, right? Is aspirational. A leader is somebody who is selfless. Selfless. You know, earlier on I talked about this whole question about when we talk about leadership is not a right. Leadership is not a right. Leadership is a responsibility.
Responsibility.
And let people think carefully about that. Because we have so many people who think leadership is a right.
But it's not.
No, it's not. Leadership is a responsibility. And think about that, it's so important. Leadership is also must be grounded spiritually. Because you see, when you look at our traditional systems, right, our traditional leadership was anchored in sense of spirituality, right? In African spirituality.
But we say that is fetishist.
Oh, that's what we are told by the colonial education system, right? This is why they destroyed our gods, and they asked us to follow a particular religious sect, right? I think to me, African spirituality is also very, very powerful. And I don't begrudge somebody who is a Christian. I think to me, it's what you do with it. That's the most important thing, right? But I begrudge somebody who thinks their basis of religion or religious thought means that they have to downgrade somebody else. That's what I have a problem with, right in that. So Africans, look, why do you think we survive enslavement? We survive enslavement given the power of our spiritualities. Because spirituality is about developing a sense of connections. Right? The sense of connection, building a relationship to Mother Earth, a relationship to lands, a relationship to each other, to your peers, your friends, and that, right?
Ancestors.
Yes.
And all of that.
Yeah. I mean, the whole question of ancestral wisdom, right? And this is why we see our elders. You know, one thing when we were talking about what the education system can do, right? I think I've been talking about myself and one of my former students, who's my colleague, Professor Paul J, right? We talk about elder crits, right? Elder crits, the cultural elders' wisdom, yes. Elder crits, right? How do we bring this cultural knowledge in the education of our youth?
That's a question I was going to ask.
Yes, the education of our youth. This is why we need elders to be part of the educational system.
Did you think our traditional leaders in particular, in our context here, have a role to play in reframing, reshaping, reprogramming the mindset of our young people for the better future?
Yeah. How? Because when they talk, they listen.
We used to sit with the fireside. Yeah. We don't have that anymore.
No, this is the thing.
So how do we go back to Sankofa?
Yes, this is one of the things we need to go back to, right? The idea of the elders gathering people by the fireside.
But the parents don't even take their children to the village. So how do we go to Sankofa in this context?
That's why I've talked about decolonizing the mind, because we've been so colonized on our minds, right, that we think, okay, now what is, look, this person needs to get education, and education is about getting a job, right? Education is more than getting a job. Education is about building the humanity in us, that human development. Of course, the job is very, very important because you need to survive, right? But we should see education as more than getting a job, right? Otherwise, what you have here is people who are educated, but they call them educated what? Fools. Because they are not grounded, right? They see their education in very limited sense, right? And I think it's very important. So to come back to the elders, right? I think it's very, very important. Look, you and I, when we go to that elder, right, and say the elder should give us an advice. Who has gone to an elder and said, please give me this advice? And the elder said, here's it, 1, 2, 3, take it, go away. No, the elder will tell you, pull a chair. You thought you were going there for just 1 minute. For 30 minutes, the elder will be talking, right? You would think he or she is rambling. If you listen carefully, there's a lot of wisdom.
I remember, Oyoko, where I come from, and, there was, when I was growing up, I would meet an elderly man, and I would say, Nana, look, with walking stick. And, I thought I was being, arrogant, and I said, Nana, but how come this other old man has a car, but you don't have a car? And then he said, okay, come home and let's talk. And you go home, and they'll tell you the mistakes they made.
Yes.
And if you avoid them.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a sense of wisdom.
Yeah. No, and they don't give it to you in 5 minutes.
No.
They'll give it to you in 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you don't have time, then don't go to the elder. But these days, see, our youth, they don't have time to listen to that because they have to go, they go to the internet, the social media, and that, right? This is what I mean by, we need an education. When I talk about education, it's beyond the schools,
sure,
right? We need that education system, which is beyond the schools, to bring back some of these things to the youth, right? To ensure that we tap into the resources, because there's a lot of untapped resources that our youth have, right? Some of that are misdirected, but to direct them to solution-oriented, to be solution-oriented, right? And this is why I think, to me, the whole question about the elders' wisdom, the elders' knowledge is very, very important. So how do we bring that into the schools, right? That means that we have to find a way to reintegrate elders into the schools, right? We also have to find ways to integrate some of the things about our cultures into the schools. I'll tell you about, for example, when we talk about success, right? Education is more than academic achievement, right? It's more than doing well on the test scores. Of course, if you do well on the test scores and get A+, that's fine. But you can be good academically, but lousy socially. That's not education.
And even morally bankrupt.
Yes, that's not education. Education is social success, and that will be inclusive of academic attainment, right? We don't just want simply to have A+ on the test scores, but it comes you are very lousy in terms of even how you treat women, right? How you treat people who are from different ethnic groups, or how you treat people who you perceive to be very poor, right? What's the use of that education? That's what I mean by the question of the ethical learning subject, the question of social justice, right? Because social justice is about human liberation, right? It's about talking about justice and fairness. And we need an education system that will teach our youth to be ethical, to be moral, to speak out when they see injustice, right? To speak out when they see violence. When they see violence, whether it's gender violence, when they see violence in the home, when they see violence in the schools, when they see corruption, to speak out. When they see it. So how do you train our learners to be critical, right? We need to have that critical learners, critical thinking skills, that will ask the tough questions of leadership. They will ask tough questions of families and parents, their communities, right? This is what we need. We need that. And you and I, we all have a responsibility in that.
Absolutely.
We all have a responsibility in that.
I mean, as we were talking, something was going through my mind, and I mean, here you are, youth are very disillusioned.
Yeah.
They don't have jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how the guy who is looking for a job can look at a politician or maybe a public servant who is doing something unethical, and say, no, this is talking against it.
Yeah.
You can't get a job.
Yeah.
So what must we do?
No, but this is why we have to. This is why we need that mindset where
Shift.
Yes, mindset. Where, for example, I mean, if the youth understand, they come to understand why they are not getting the job. While, okay, in the midst of plenty, it's only
A few people.
who have it, and to understand what is happening, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Let me pick your thought on this. I interviewed somebody who said that it is better to be poor in a rich nation than to be rich in a poor nation. In other words, only few people are rich, but in a poor nation.
It doesn't, because when few people are rich, right? When few people are rich, right? The majority are what?
Poor.
Poor. And what good is that? And sometimes you see, there's something we also forget, right? The people who are rich, they didn't get their wealthy or their wealth or their wealthy status or their wealth. They didn't get it simply all by themselves.
Yeah.
They had somebody work for them.
Yeah.
Right? The people who are poor work for them to get their riches. And this is why we need to. So teaching people to understand that is very, very important.
So profit with purpose.
Yes. Teaching people to understand that. Right? That the wealthy and the poor are connected. The wealthy and the poor are connected. So if somebody thinks they are wealthy and all they exist on an island unto themselves, right? They have to be very, very careful. Because when that colonial mindset I'm talking about
It's changed
changed.
to be a disaster.
Yes. Yes. So this is what we talk about, the power of education. How are we equipping our learners with those critical mindset, the critical thinking skills to question, to ask the difficult questions, the questions people don't want us to ask, right?
I like the distinction you've brought out with respect to schooling and education,
Right.
which therefore means that all these, social institutions have a role to play
Yes.
in the educational process of the people.
Yeah.
Now, let me, you have mentored a lot of PhD students and all of that. How do we make this whole mindset shift part of our national life? How do we do that? How do we go about it?
I think, to me, the youth academies is one area to go. Because the youth academies where you have those academies, because, there's something I always, and I like when I quote, my students always smile when I quote, right? We had that late pop icon, popular culture icon, Tupac.
Tupac, yes.
Yes. There's something in one of his lyrics in his songs when he
Is he your student?
No.
Oh, not Tupac.
Yeah, no, he was a rapper.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
So he talks about, I may not be able to change the world, but I want to guarantee that I'll be able to change the minds of the little ones who are going to be able to change the world.
Wow.
Right?
That's a powerful statement.
Yes. This to me is about what we can do with the future generation. So the youth
generational
academy,
thinking.
yes, the youth academy I'm talking about, right? When you have a youth academy that is so African-centered, where the youth are being educated, are being trained, are being modeled, right, with some of these ideas, it's like giving them the tools. They are going to be people who are going to go to those places to make all the transformation that we're talking about, right? And so it's very, very important to have these youth leadership academies. It's very, very important, but that would include women's groups and all that, right? Very, very important. The African-centered education that I'm talking about, right? It's very, very important. Also, the question about how we bring elders into these conversations, right? It's going to be very, very important. And then also how we build the communities, right?
Can we use our training colleges as well?
Yeah, I think it's...
That will mean the whole curriculum has to
curriculum, yeah, it speaks to the question of curriculum, right? Earlier when I talk about the curriculum sophistication, the curriculum sophistication, I'm talking about curriculum that works with the diversity of knowledges and experiences that we have, right? If the curriculum is not diverse, there's a limitation. If the curriculum is not diverse, there's a limitation, right? And when I talk about the diversity diversification of the curriculum, I'm talking about bringing our cultural knowledges into the curriculum. You know that, you and I know that our school systems don't work with our local cultural knowledges, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So to bring them into the curriculum, right? To bring them into the curriculum, to start from where we are, our knowledge base, to work with that. Our indigenous scientism, right? To bring that. Our ancestral wisdom traditions, to bring that into the curriculum. Those things are very, very powerful, right? In that. And I think, as I said earlier on, it doesn't mean that we are going to be very, very critical. I think we have to, no tradition is immune to criticisms. No tradition is immune to criticisms. But we have to interrogate them, right? This idea that somehow tradition is bad, is past, we need to debunk that, right? We need to debunk that.
That's true.
Yeah, we need to debunk that.
That's true. I mean, you've spent quite an extensive part of your life in North America. What is missing when you look at North America? And of course, you've traveled extensively, giving lectures all over in Africa. What's missing in Africa? Is it, apart from the mindset, what else?
I think we are not working with the resources that we have.
Explain.
Well, what I mean is, I think, see, if, say, you need, say, A. A can be manufactured by somebody else. But let's also think about how we can manufacture something from the local resources that we have, right? From the local resources that we have, right? And that will include the skills, our own environment, what we have, right?
But we are degrading the environment.
This is it.
So which means that the whole thing with the challenge of Africa is leadership.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's, yeah.
And mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you need, and like I said, and that leadership is not one person.
You know, of course.
It's a collective.
Collective.
Yeah.
Including you,
yes.
your people.
Yeah.
Traditional leaders as well.
Yeah. No.
Some of you sell the land and then you pocket it.
I know. And you know, this is why we have some of our chiefs who are very, very they have the foresight, the forefront, and they're always speaking up against people, their subordinates who are degrading the status of chiefdom, right, and chiefship, right, by selling lands and that, and I'm always criticizing. And some of them will say, "Look, I will distill you if I see you sell land." You know that, right? You know some of our powerful leaders.
Of late, a lot of educated elites are going to chieftaincy. So let me talk about yours.
But I think
what motivated you to?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question.
Yeah.
No, I think I don't know, but I think it's a complex of factors, right? I think first of all, I think communities also are looking at that. If, for example, there are eligible heirs, right, for this tool, you want somebody who at least has some education. And at least can. But
in the olden days, education was not really. Well, let me say schooling was not a factor.
Yeah.
So what has changed?
I think now also because also some of these things, you know, they are no going to these traditional positions, right? There's not much wealth in there. So you have to be somebody who is prepared
to contribute,
right? You cannot be a chief and not contribute to the development of your community, right? You have to. So people are now also looking at, well, let's look at who is presentable, who has something that he can help the community with. So that becomes a factor. But also, I must also admit that I think sometimes people recognize that if you believe in culture and tradition, right, then when you are called upon to be a chief, or you accept it.
Ensure that it's perpetuated.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, my case, for example, what good is it for me to be teaching about the power of African culture, Kenyan culture and tradition, right?
And not accept
it when it becomes a dissonance.
Yeah.
It comes like when he speaks on one side of the mouth and then the other side he does something else. Right?
So what gives you pain, Nana?
I would say pain. I think I see it as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to serve, opportunity to contribute, right? And then sometimes the demands can be overwhelming, right? But if you believe that at the end of the day, if you are happy with yourself that you have done what you can do, then you can sleep at night at peace, right? And that. But I think when you look at it, to me, when you talk about, I want to look at the pain in a very broad sense. That I think to me,
for me, my question of the pain is not even about traditional roles, but generally about life. Ghana, whenever you come to Ghana and you look at what gives you pain? What gives you sleepless night? I know you're a leader, you want to contribute. I've seen what you're doing as Korea and all of that. What gives you pain?
I think to me it's the sense that Africa has a bright future if only we can put our minds to it, right? And sometimes it's not always happening, right? It's not happening. There's pain when I see that we tend to be just copying blindly, right? Copying blindly. I see also pain when I see that sometimes the prophet in your own village is not respected. So you give all the respect to all these expatriates, these foreigners, right? When you have Africans
who can do the same thing,
and
even better,
right? And that gives pain.
It's part of the mindset.
Right.
Colonization.
And that gives me pain when you say, for example, somebody says, "Oh, now when you are coming, buy me this," and I'll say, "You get it in Ghana," right? They say, "No, I want the one from there," right? And then when you bring people from there who come here, right? They rather come and buy the
things from here. They take it out, and they even buy it more expensive, especially when they see them,
So there's that, right? And like we talked about, right? No society is perfect, right? So if you cannot see injustice, be happy about it, right? I'm a social justice educator, right? So anytime I see injustice, I do. I think the power of people speaking is very, very important. People should have that power to speak, right? There should be no fear when people speak, right? And when people speak, rather than being punished, people have to listen to when people...
I've spoken to a number of people about corruption and how we can deal with corruption. You're a scholar, and I'm sure even if it's not your area, you might have read. How do we deal with corruption? From a social justice standpoint.
No, I think it comes to me as a question of the distinction I make between teaching respect and enforcing respect, teaching discipline and enforcing discipline. There's a big difference, right? Teaching discipline is where some of these teachings that we're talking about, right? I think to me, part of the corruption, right, we have to approach it from the level of some of the things we've been talking about, which is developing that ethics of caring, that if this is something for a wider community, why do you want you to have it all to yourself, right? So there's that angle to it. But there's also the angle to it where we say when we see that there's corruption, there must be consequences for that. There must be consequences for that, right? You cannot stem corruption without having repercussions, accountability, right? So there must also be that, right? And the other angle to it too is that sometimes there's that the blurring of the traditional approach to relations and that massive, right. So
sometimes you people go and beg on behalf of the corporates and all of that.
Yeah, right. And
in Ghana we respect the chiefs.
Right. And I think to me what we need to do is in terms of how we deal with the corruption issue is that I think there must be consequences, right? People cannot amass state assets and state resources and not face the consequences for it, right? There must be. But I think to me that is only a punitive approach to it, right? There must be more approach which is built in our culture, which is the restorative, right? The restorative aspect to it, which is that we must teach that. That's why the character, the ethics education, the moral education comes in, right? I think part of the approach is solving corruption. It's through moral education, right? Just as much as we want people who are corrupt to be punished and pay for their corruption, we also have to have a moral, ethical component to it, where people are taught about the essence of what it means not to take what is not yours.
And we started off, and I made a public disclosure that we are blood related. You are my senior brother from the same father. I think I want us to end it on that note as well, before I give you the opportunity to address the youth and your traditional leaders and the political leaders. I've seen all of us are emotional.
Yeah.
Why? Where did it come from?
Well, it's when you talk of our family.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's funny you're saying, because back in Ascori, people say, well,
one day I saw you crying in public.
No, I know. I know. People, even recently, we lost someone, right? And somebody said, "Oh, there comes the night." His tears are just
coming to him.
to soon come, right? I don't know. I think anybody who is passionate is emotional. Anybody who is passionate is emotional. So for me, I see that as a plus. I see emotions as powerful.
Was the old man like that?
Yes. And I think, to me, because emotions has to move into action, right? When you are very passionate about something, when you get emotional about something, you want to
But
see...
they say men don't cry in public. That's what they say.
No. Do we know? I think no. I think it's a sign of humility. It's a sign of the humanity of anyone when they think their emotions are out there and they spill it out. I don't think we should fault them for that. So for me, I'm not going to be apologetic in any way about my emotions, right? Because I feel that emotions are part of me, and emotions is also part of the knowledge, right? It used to be when people say, "Well, don't bring emotions into this," right? Yeah. Don't bring emotions to this. Emotions are powerful, right? Emotions, we are speaking from the heart. To speak from the heart is about being...
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you cannot tell me don't speak from the heart when I'm talking about questions of justice. I'm talking about questions of injustice, right? Don't tell me don't speak from the heart when I'm talking about what has happened in the past to me. I mean, when we started, I could see you when we were talking about that, right? You didn't see that and you were emotional about that. Yeah. No way. That's human. That's human. It's only the callous. Somebody who's very, very callous who would say, "Oh, no." No. Yeah. So for me, I don't buy that. To me, the emotions are very, very important. They are part of that, right?
I know you've raised a lot of PhD students all across the continent. There are Ghanaians we've brought to Canada to do PhDs and all of that. So beyond all of that, Nana, how would you want to be remembered when you're no more?
Yeah. No, I think, to me, I want to be remembered as somebody who did all what he could, right, with the knowledge that God gave him, and with the wisdom that his ancestors, his parents, gave him to improve upon lives, right? No one is without failings, right? But I think we should remember people for whatever achievements that they were able to do. But also, I want to remember that I'm somebody who always liked working with others, right? That all the achievements that we talked about are not simply because of me. It's created with others, right? And I show humility in that. And I want to remember that at least is somebody who showed an awareness and understanding that for all achievements that we make, it's a collective undertaking, right? And I want to be remembered for that I believe in the power of the collective.
Let me pick on that before you address the people. I know in North America and developed countries, a lot of collaboration among academia. In Africa, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
Even though I must say it's changing of late.
Yeah, it's changing. Yeah,
why? Why?
Yeah. It's part of...
It's part of the mindset?
Yes.
The colonial?
Right. How they think if people are coming from the North with resources, that's where the resources are. So partnership with the North is more about getting the resources for it to happen. I think there needs to be more and more of this global South partnership, right? Partnerships among ourselves, right? And I think in academia, in which I am, right, part of that is also the culture of hierarchies and the culture of survivalism, right? Whereby sometimes we're so competitive, right? We're so competitive. So rather than even see the strengths that we have within our communities, we want to compete And one way we compete is, okay, we want to see who is able to bring in the resources from our side and that. But it's changing. I think there's the Global South partnership that is and it's needed. And it's not just even among academics, but partnership with groups that are on the ground, with civil society, right? With groups that are on the ground, because there are people who are on the ground who are doing a lot of work, right? Sometimes the accreditations are not, to me, it's what people do with it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's what people do with it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's what people do with it. At the end of the day, you're going to be held accountable. I believe in this saying that at some point in our lives, when we are called, we'll be called to answer. We're going to ask, what did you do with all what was given to you, with all the knowledge that was given to you, all the talent that was given to you, with all the resources that was given? Could you tell us what you did with it? You're going to account for that, and you must be able to account for that.
And that's your lead camera. You've seen Ghana. You come every year.
Yeah.
And you see that the level of development. You are far older than me. And I don't know whether you see whether we are developing or we are retrogressing or we are at a standstill in our development, whatever. But I want you to address the young people with respect to how you see the future. Then the political leaders, what you think that they should be doing, and then your group, your traditional leaders. Because everybody seems to be saying that because we are having a lot more enlightened traditional leaders, they should be doing more in terms of development. What have you got to tell them? 3 groups of people.
So let's start with the youth, right? I think I'm speaking as an elder to the youth, right? One of the things we talked about in our conversation is that the youth, you are a powerful resource, right? You are a powerful resource. And let's use your agency. Demand and ask questions. But also see that you have a responsibility. The future is yours. But ask yourself, how are you going to be part of creating that future? How are you going to be part of creating that future? That means you have to be very creative and be resourceful. Build communities. Build communities. If you see a brother, if you see a sister that is going wayward, rather than cast them away, try and bring them back. Try and bring them back. Be listeners. Respect is very, very important. Respect. Any youth who does not respect does not live long. Respect eldership. It doesn't mean elders are always right. But when you show the respect, when you tell an elder that you are wrong, the elder will listen to it because they know that this is somebody who actually shows the respect. And I think to me, also speak out. We want you to be able to speak out, right? If you see injustice, speak out. Right? If you see violence, if you see something that is happening that you are not happy about, speak out, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't speak out, it's your future that is being created. And you have every right to contest it. You have every right to design the futures that you want. You have every right to ask questions and also be demanding. But you cannot be demanding if you are not also responsible. So be responsible citizenry. Be responsible to your families, to your friends, to your peers. Don't copy blindly. Don't copy blindly. Be proud of who you are as Africans. Be proud of who you are as Africans. Right? Show your African pride. Don't copy blindly. Nobody is going to make you an African. And nobody is going to take your African away from you. You have to claim it. You have to demand it. You have to insist on it. You have to work on it so that you can walk with your head on your shoulders, very proud. So this is my charge to you. That think through solutions to problems that you encounter. If there's any assistance that you can get it. But don't sit and wait that the manna is going to come from somewhere. You have to think through solutions to the challenges that you face yourself. Now to the other
political leaders.
Political leaders. I think leadership, right? Leadership is not a right, it's a responsibility. Always let us remember that we are people who trusted us, gave us the power that we have. But the power must translate into action. And that action must be meaningful. It must be community-driven. It must have relevance. Right? At the end of the day, you are going to be remembered for the good deeds that you did, not for the wealth and the riches that you amassed for yourself. It's the good deeds that you did. If people have trusted in you the power to lead, show them that you care, that you want to build communities, that you listen, that you are going to take the necessary leadership insights, foresight, the vision that will help build the communities more than how you came to find the communities. And this is my charge to our political leaders. Be visionary, be very bold, be African-centered, be African-centered. We need African-centered leadership. We don't need leadership that is tethered to the West, to the interests of the West. Stand on your feet as African leaders. Speak with the vision, speak with the wisdom of your ancestors. Speak with the wisdom of great African leaders who were so determined to make Africa proud, so that your name will be etched in history as continuing that tradition. And that's my plead, my urge, and my call to our African leadership. Be very bold, be every African-centered, be visionary, be very understanding, and be very thoughtful of your nations, of your communities. And don't be tethered to the West or to any imperial order. And lastly, to our traditional elders and chiefs. Right? Nananum, it's always an honor to be an elder, to be a chief. And I know some of you are doing so much great work. Some of you abhor corruption. Some of you are against those who are bringing bad name to the chiefship or the chiefdom. And I applaud you on that. But there's more that we can do. There's more that we can do. We cannot simply let our political leaders take our communities and run them in the way that they want. I think we can go back to our communities and take the leadership that is also required, that indigenous leadership that has been bestowed on us, which was built on trust, built on a relationship with our spirituality, built on a relationship to our ancestry, relationship to our cultural memories. Let's use that to lead our communities, to offer the wisdom, the guidance, because when we talk, people listen. So let's be good examples, good ambassadors, so that they can also be proud of who we are and call us that these are our Nananum, our chiefs, our elders. Let's listen to advice, even sometimes when it's very unpleasant. And let's know that at the end of the day, we are the leaders of our communities. And the community is only as good as we collectively work to make it. Thank you.
You know, earlier on in the program, I made a disclosure and I said, this is my senior brother. And I'm proud that today I've had the honor of having this wonderful conversation with my senior brother, who is not just a brother, but an astute scholar who has been celebrated globally. And I'm proud that I've had the singular honor of talking to him. Listen, nobody's going to shape this continent for us. Yeah. And like he said, it is time for us to begin to smile with our own teeth and not to be looking at the fact that somebody else is going to come and do it for us. It's only us. Yeah. And we must go back to our indigenous culture. That is so critical. Yeah. And as he said, there's a difference between schooling and education. And if we can all embrace the educational concept that he has passionately, elaborated for us, I strongly believe that this mindset shift that we are all looking for, particularly among our young people, we can achieve that. Yeah. Listen, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to it and share this link. It's a movement. We are not talking about just sharing content. No, this is a platform that even if you are doing research and you want some very detailed knowledge, you can come to this platform and have it, because everybody we bring here is authentic. These are scholars, these are academia, technocrats who are policymakers and what have you, that are helping us to shape the content. Our passion is this: by 2050, we want to develop 1,000 young, upwardly mobile professionals in each of the 55 nations of Africa who will take over the mantle of leadership of our continent so that we can shape the direction of the future of this continent. Please share this link and subscribe and join the movement. Nana?
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
It's been a real pleasure having you.
Me too.
And I can tell you that the old man
is smiling
in his grave.
Yeah.
You know, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.